Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Newsgram. I hope you're in the mood for adventure, because today we're going to go deep into Australia, into the magical town of Walgett. And there I'm going to introduce you to Irene Holmes, a mystery writer.
Just like Uncle Sherlock, with a name like that, I have to write murder mysteries, right?
Can you tell we're in for a bit of fun today? Before we get to the murder and the mayhem, let's set the scene, because I think it's important to know where an artist finds inspiration. So if you'll indulge me, it's time for Sam's Travelog. If you're a creative person like Irene Holmes, Walgett is basically paradise. It sits nestled at the intersection of the Barwin and the Namoi rivers, and the view is spectacular. It's a very small town, but it's rich in culture and community. It's located in northern New South Wales, which is about 400 miles from Sydney, which is 642 kilometers if you're from Australia. In fact, it's an 8-hour drive from Sydney, Canberra, or Brisbane. Not exactly easy to get to. In fact, it's a place where four-wheel drive vehicles are recommended, but not necessarily required. Once you get there, you can enjoy a hot bath from a 2-million-year-old basin. Natural pressure sends water to the surface through an artesian bore, where it maintains a constant temperature of somewhere between 102 and 104 degrees. It sounds pretty amazing, right? Walgett's most famous resident is the renowned Aboriginal country music legend Jimmy Little. He lived there in the 1950s and sadly passed away in 2012. And if you were to visit Walgett, you'd get to see a beautiful mural that bears his likeness, painted on a water tower. You can also pay your respects if you're a fan, because he is buried there. And Jimmy Little is a story unto itself, so perhaps we'll go there on another show, but for now, suffice it to say that there's something in the water in Walgett that inspires creativity.
Yeah, I did an arts degree, printmaking, art history, drawing. They were the core ones, the core units, and then I did an elective which was ceramics. And my husband at that time was also interested in ceramics, so we started our own little pottery in the back garden, and then with some other friends opened a gallery and sold our work through the gallery. And I loved it. I really did enjoy the creativity and the solace, really. It's quite a soothing thing to be doing. You don't have any fingernails, mind you. They disappeared after about week 1.
Yes, ceramics is not a hobby for those who like to stay well manicured. In addition to being a wife and a professional potter, Irene Holmes is also a mother, a recruiter, and a teacher.
Being a teacher, you're always a storyteller and a bit of a performer. And I could get kids engaged in stories, and I thought, well, I may as well write them down. So I was sitting and waiting for a friend one day. I was inside a little cafe, and she was on her way to meet me, and I could see her coming up the street, but because of the reflections on the outside of the window, she couldn't see me inside. And the way my creative, quirky, somewhat strange brain starts to work, I was sitting there and thinking, oh, I wonder what a criminal or a killer, how could they use that, see the other person but not be seen themselves? And so my little brain started to tick it all over, and that's how this one started. That's how this book started, really.
Interesting. Feels a bit voyeuristic. But that is the genesis of Reflections, her new mystery novel. And just like a polished window, there are all kinds of reflections out there. None of them are more powerful than our own personal reflections and recollections. So if you're a fan of whodunits, I think you're going to like this one. Here's the description from her website. In this gripping narrative, deception, threats, and relentless quest for truth intertwine with the ordinary rhythms of daily existence. Will justice ultimately prevail?
Okay, well, it is a murder mystery. Okay, that's no big surprise there.
Right, but now let's leave Walgett, Australia, and go back in time to 1926 England, where the story is set.
I've set it in England, 1926-ish, because England and Europe, and well, the whole world really, was just picking up the pieces after the First World War, and horrific time. And everybody in the book, well, everybody in the world, was affected by that in some way or another. But in 1926, people are trying to put back their families back together, and villages and towns and the economy and all of that. It's a quieter more gentle time where good manners are expected, and that's just a social norm. People valued their privacies, no one being pushed around by a little telephone in your back pocket kind of thing. So that's why I chose where I chose. But there was also the influence of the Spanish flu raging through England, and that does have a little tiny link with Lady Gregson, good old Matilda. She's a good chook, she's okay. Conveniently dies early in the story, which is fine, and then the snowball effect happens after her death. And it's that death in her house. She was an old lady, she was ill, so it was expected, not friendly, but expected that she was going to die. So there was no big deal about that, really. But everybody in the house, of course, is affected by that. And people in the village, you know how you drop a pebble in a pond and all those little ripples go out to the edge? Well, that was what her death did to the household and to the village. Those little ripples started to wander off to the edge of the villages and houses.
And that's where it all happens, and why it happens. Now let's have a look at the cast of characters.
Her nephew, that she'd never really met before, but she didn't have any male heirs to hand down her estate, and that's the way it works in the British, or did at that time. In the British system, you had to go to a male heir. He didn't have one. So young James was sort of popped into the picture there. And he's a nice young lad. And we learned about him and how he grows from a young business partner in London, and how he grows into the man or the manor kind of thing, and how he deals with people. We also meet some of the staff in the household. Two housemaids in particular, Lily and Ruby. They're quite young, like Lily's about 18 thereabouts, and Ruby's a bit younger than that. Good old country girls from Yorkshire, not really been anywhere in the world, and we watch them grow into, one of them to quite a strong, courageous young woman rather than a little boppy housemaid. And then we get to know Ruby's a bit more strong and a bit more feisty than everyone saw her as being initially. Then we meet Mr. James's intended, Dorothy Bosworth. Well, she's not aristocratic, but just a tiny step down from there. But is she really as sweet and lovely as she presents herself? And of course you meet the nurse, because she's been hired as a contract nurse to look after Lady Gregson, knowing what the end result was going to be. But she's efficient, she's effective, she's very professional, but she has her own secrets that affect decisions she makes from her introduction through to the end of the book.
There you go. Now that you've been formally introduced to these intriguing characters, each with their own reflections, it's time to crack open the book and find out if it really is a captivating read or not. And keep in mind, it is a mystery, so we can't take you into anything that will spoil the story for you. Here's Irene.
Okay. Now, this is the part sort of just leading into Lady Gregson's funeral, which is happening tomorrow. And James has gone to the train station to pick up his mother, Maud. All right. As he says to her, "Why did you leave your arrival until now, the night before the funeral, on the very last train?" Well, for several reasons, dear. You see, people in our position should do their grieving in private, don't you think? Not make a spectacle in front of the villagers and the whole county. We must maintain our position. And besides, I needed to be sure that Winifred had everything in order before I left the house, you see, to be sure that nothing goes amiss while I'm away. Mother, you will only be gone for 1 week, and Winifred's been running the house for more than 30 years. I hardly think she needs any extra instructions. Also, Mother, you don't live in this county, and you don't have a position to maintain. Oh, only 1 week, dear. Well, perhaps. You never know in these situations, do you? She asked with a smug smile. Oh, God, thought James. That does not bode well. Now that she was settled in the back seat of the car with James, she leaned across and patted his hand in a conspiratorial, domineering manner, saying, "Now, I don't wish to be indelicate, dear, but now that your position has changed and you're a man of property and wealth, you really do need to start thinking about marrying. A gentleman who owns significant estate really does need a wife." James just stared at her, mouth agape, incredulous. "You don't mean to sound indelicate?
Do you think perhaps we might at least lay your only surviving cousin in the ground before you start taking over my household and my staff and my private life and reordering the whole county as well, I imagine? He was really angry and loathing his mother with each additional word. Of course, dear, she smiled again, completely ignoring his anger. There'll be plenty of time for addressing all those things after the funeral. Next week will be time enough to start. Really, Mother, you are too much. Quite horrid, actually.
And there you have it. Reflections.
It's not the standard formula of sex and violence, because a good story doesn't need those things to make it a good story. It's not the boy meets girl and everybody's happy, or the detective comes along and solves it all and takes it out of the hands of the characters. It's a story where the characters are in charge of all the unveiling of information and putting things together. So I'd like the readers to think, well, that was a different way of writing a murder mystery. So yeah, those kinds of things is what I'd like them to take away.
A tale of mystery and human drama, intrigue, and some moral ambiguity just to keep things interesting. Will justice prevail? Well, you can find out for yourself by downloading your copy of Reflections by Irene Holmes. You can get it online at Amazon.com, but why not just go straight to her website, IreneHolmes.com. It's spelled the same way Sherlock does it. And that will do it for this edition of Newsgram from WebTalkRadio.com.